G'day watchers, welcome to Perth Watch, your horology channel broadcasting from right here in Perth, Western Australia. Today I have the pleasure to feature a debut piece from a new company going onto Kickstarter. So here we have the first piece from Mitch Mason Watches. This is their Chronicle, which they've come out to say that it is their modern take on the ideal field watch, featuring a combination of vintage styling, broad versatility and modern functionality. So let's get the box open and take a look at this watch and see whether it actually meets their brief. Okay guys, got this watch case on the table now, and there you go. You can see the brand name in a little bit of a different texture there on the top of this box. How does it spin? Alright, not exactly the best. I reckon that's a 3 out of 5 for the spin rating there. Okay, so let's just open this up and get the watch roll, which comes in out of this. And this is pretty nice. It's actually a kind of a distressed leather. It has a very nice aroma to it. I really quite enjoy this type of practical travel case. You could really use this very much as a travel case. And let's just open it up. It's got a zipper compartment on the side here, space for 3 watches, and the watch in question is stored in here. Okay, so let's just put that aside now and show you this particular watch. So guys, so what we have here is the inaugural piece from Mitch Mason. This is the Mitch Mason Chronicle in field grey. Now they do plan to release this in 2 different versions. So there's the vintage style one, which comes in 2 different colors, as well as a modern style with a more modern dial and sandwich numerals in 2 other colors, blue and black, I believe. In that modern one has vertical brushing as well. Look at the links to the product landing page if you want to check out more of the details in this watch. The Kickstarter price is looking at $379. Right, that's really going to be the promised Kickstarter price, with a full MSRP later on to be $499. That's really the plan for this watch. Okay guys, so as I like to do, let's talk first about the movement in here. And what we have in here, or at least what we planned for the production models, is the Miyota 9039. So the specs of this movement, which you've seen before in another vintage dive watch that I made a review of a while ago. You've seen this movement before. I'm not going to read out all the specs, but you can see the rated accuracy is -10 + 30. In actual use, this particular watch has been running -4 seconds per day, so it is within the intended accuracy of the regulation of such movements. No date, which is a good one. So the planned movement 9039 is a no date movement, and it's good that they chose that to go with a no date watch, so that you're not getting a ghost date position, which you sometimes do in some other watches. Okay, now let's talk about the case itself. The case is a very pleasing vintage size of 36.5mm across. The bezel, hopefully you can see it here, it's slightly narrower. The bezel itself is 36mm if you measure that by calipers. Overall thickness, there's a certain thickness to this, right? To the top of the domed crystal there is 13mm. It's got 20mm lugs, which I guess you might think is slightly disproportionate with a 36.5 case. Maybe some people would prefer that to be 18mm lugs, but I reckon it's okay actually. They kind of have a very good design to kind of carry that out. Lug to lug distance, one of the shortest I've seen between my thumbs is only 43.5mm. So certainly this will fit on almost anyone's wrist. Pretty much anybody I know can carry this watch, I reckon. Overall weight on this distressed suede leather is 79 grams, so it is actually very light, very easy to carry, very easy to forget because it's so comfortable on the wrist. Right, moving on to finishing then. So hopefully you guys can see most of that already polished on the bezel, right, including the bevel of the bezel. Longitudinal brushing on the top surface there, as well as the side surface, right? You can see that side surface has longitudinal brushing, fairly fine brushing, and then it's got longitudinal brushing along the bottom surface of the lugs with polished bevels. Pretty nicely done, so that bevel there is polished, that under bevel is also polished, the side surface of the bezel is polished, and the end surfaces of the lugs as well. You can see they're pretty angular. Is polished. Very nice case design, really nice original case design, and that's one of the strengths of this particular watch, I think, is the really original case design that they've come up with, which is, you know, kind of an adjustment of the vintage feel style, which tends to have very straight lugs. So, you know, I think it's a very good job that they've done here. Right, looking at the case back, what we have is a screw down etched case back with, you know, what is apparently the Mitch Mason crest, which harkens back to the military origins of the field watch. Right, you can see some of the details around the side, including the fact that this case is rated at 200 meters with that screw down case back. And yes, it's got a screw down crown. Not all field watches will have that, but they've gone for the full screw down crown to get that 200 meter water resistance rating. One thing I will say is that that crown has fairly fine grooves there. They will improve that for the production model with more widely spaced grooves that with deeper etching, so it'll make it even easier to grip. It does have a sign there, so hopefully that you can see that there's an M for Mitch Mason, right? That sign on that crown there. All right, guys, let's talk about the dial now. And the dial is really quite a lovely design. It's a flat gray dial. In this case, they call it field gray. It's got completely printed details. There's not a single applied detail here. Right, patina kind of coloration on the indices there, kind of like a slightly off-white for the numbers, and as well as most of that vintage style tram line chapter ring around the periphery here. It's got a unique set of hands, I want to say, right? The Mitch Mason hands, they call it. Now, the hour hand really reminds me of a cathedral hand, what you call a cathedral hand, but it's, of course, not exactly the same. It's got a certain unique loom pattern and division there in that hour hand. More of a sword style minute hand, and a simple stick for the second hand, which is in a splash of blue to give a bit of a coloration, a bit of different splash of color to this otherwise you know, kind of a two-color dial, or maybe three colors, including the old radium color of the loom there. So yes, the loom is indeed Superluminova all radium, and it's on the main hands, as well as the chapter ring indices, and not so much the numbers on this dial, right? The index of the modern version with sandwich loom will have a loom on the sandwich numerals, but this one doesn't. It's just on the chapter ring indices, and of course a loom shot right here for you guys to see how it looks like in the dial. Okay, so surrounding the dial is a fixed steel bezel, right? I think you can clearly see that, right? There's a fixed steel bezel that we're dealing with here. It's got a double-domed sapphire crystal on top of the dial with 5 layers of internal anti-reflective coating, and as you see it here, you can see it's doing pretty well, right? It's pretty good anti-reflective treatment here, and it's kind of like it does reduce the reflection of the room around me. As you see, you know, that dome will kind of catch most of the room behind me, but the anti-reflecting treatment is doing a pretty good job. What are the improvements that they are going to do in the production model on top of the prototype? Well, they say that the finishing will be even better. I think the finishing is already not bad, but yes, it can be sharper, and they have committed to improving, particularly, I think, the transitions, I imagine, between brush and polished surfaces, and the seconds hand length. You can see the seconds hand is kind of going beyond the tram line slightly. They have said that it will go right at the edge of the tram line for the production model. All right, moving on to the strap now. Top grade suede is what it is, right, with calf leather lining, and polish and brush steel buckle with Mitch Mason on the name there. Okay, then that's really what it is. It's got quick release spring bars. All right, so let's just try the watch on the wrist for a wrist shot for you guys now. And there you go, guys, the Mitch Mason Chronicle. So remember, very nicely sized, 36.5 with 43.5 millimeter lug to lug height there on my 17 centimeter wrist, 13 millimeter thickness. So it's probably the most prominent dimension, really. But I think anybody can carry this lovely looking watch very easily. All right, guys, so what have I enjoyed about this nice watch? I really think it is a lovely vintage-inspired field watch. Lots of thoughtfulness in the design. It meets the briefing successfully, right? It's vintage style broad versatility thanks to the styling, the quietness, as well as the sizing and modern functionality, meaning, it's got the full 200 meter rating, it's got sapphire crystal, it's got lume for use in the dark, as well as accuracy of a Miyota 9000 series. It's going to be an accurate movement. I think the sizing is great, including the use of the 9039 for sizing as well as achieving thinness. Not that this is super thin, but achieving thinness. It's got a nice dome crystal, and I like the no date choice of this vintage style watch. Good looking case, good looking dial, really nice case design. I like it, and I really look forward to seeing how the sandwich lume dial looks. I believe I'll be getting that in the future as well. What are the concerns? What are the weaknesses, if any? Right, I think the case thickness is somewhat disproportionate, 13mm for a small watch. Maybe that's needed to get that 200 meters. I'm not an engineer, so I don't know about that, but I can forgive it if that is required to achieve that good water rating. The brush surface at the end here, sometimes that's a bit glaring. I think I wonder if that could be finished differently, maybe a bit more curved. That can be a bit glaring. It's nicely finished, I gotta say, but that's just something I notice sometimes on the wrist. Maybe not everybody will like that. That's just a subjective thing on my part. And then I would say the leather strap, it looks good, right? It really does look good on the wrist, but it's certainly not the most versatile choice. If I was going to use this with that full water rating, I would want to swap that out. I think a nice silicone rubber or a NATO would do this watch very nicely, and that's an easy solution. So guys, there we go. Those are my thoughts about this watch, my pros and cons. Let's flip the camera around now for the wrap up. So there you go, guys, my review of the Mitch Mason Chronicle, the first piece from this company. Let me know what you think. I think there are a few other reviews out there that have come out already, so you guys are probably not completely new to this watch. Would love to hear your thoughts on this, and in fact whether you will actually jump on the bandwagon and try to get this watch when it launches. I think there's actually a lot of things to like about this watch, particularly the overall look and the small size of it, but let me know if you see any weaknesses, or in fact if you feel that the price is not compelling enough. Would love to hear discussion in the comments below. Guys, if you like my videos, do consider subscribing. New content every week, always aiming to be objective and unbiased about all things horology. Thank you again for sticking with me, and as always, I'll catch you guys again next time.